see Ukraine, they like apparently broke in.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, and she has to spend the last day of school too of actually coming tonight.
So she had to take her home.
I don't know. Back then they had to take their exams no matter what, they didn't have that.
Back then.
She's only 20. I agree. But also my hair, and he's like 26. He doesn't know what MC is. I remember taking it in middle school. Yeah. So I don't know what he's on.
I think he just probably doesn't.
He probably was stupid. It's like, oh, I can just feel the knuckles going in my head right now. Are you going to?
Yes. What's that say, Jim?
Yeah. They are. No,
Is that me?
I can't believe I'm not like that. I cannot believe I'm not like that. You got it.
I haven't said anything before.
I don't know, but
Every now and then. Oh, yeah.
so you just see
Right.
I know, right?
Yeah, but it's sticky.
oh my god, is that
Oh, you can.
and he said he would switch.
If she walking outside and was
So he definitely like well, it ain't gonna happen and no one's gonna talk to him. Because why are you sitting at a round table with a whole bunch of girls who don't even know? And actually it's all because of Santa.
I just barely been out. And I love it.
I'm joking, I'm not watching.
It, for our,
I just want to make sure for the honors part of
Last night?
I mean, not. But I just want to get caught up.
yeah, no.
Most of us up here should be done. I just need to be caught up.
Everybody must have known before me it was 6 o'clock. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us this evening for the April 23rd Board of Education meeting. We appreciate your attendance and interest in our information. If you do plan to make a public comment this evening, please complete a comment card and give it to Mrs. Callard at this time if you've not already done so. I would ask that you silence your cell phones and remove your hat as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if we could do the roll call, please. Haney. Hanson. Montague.
Present.
Murphy.
Present.
Odell.
Present.
Ramberg.
Present.
And Lund. Present. And Mrs. Hanson will be joining us shortly. She's at her daughter's music program this evening, so she'll join us in a bit. I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported to adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, up first this evening, as always, are our reports, and we will start with our student board representatives.
Hi, everybody. So we wanted to start with prom talking first. So it's this weekend at Crystal Gardens. Sorry, I didn't see it. 6 to 10, and the red carpet is 5 to 6. And then dinner is right after that. So parents, siblings, they can all come to the red carpet and like take pictures and see everybody. I know some people are confused on that. So yes, they can. Well, I guess my name knows. And then if anyone is knows anyone or is looking for a prom suit, I think it's Brighton Suit and Tux has like rentals, and we actually had a senior, Blake Jackson, coming to school with a suit on, like sponsoring them. So just if you know anyone, I'll let them know about that. And then testing is all finished, so makeup testing is just going through Friday. Project graduation, shout out for all that they have been doing. I know it's kind of been difficult. They actually just recently met with Jessica Sneed, last year's like kind of main runner of it, just for some questions and some problems that they all got figured out. And this went really good because they already sent the Google form today to sign up for it. And then Tuesday is a scholarship night and awards night, and then Ella will talk more about that. And then senior cop out, and I'll remind again, is May 16th at 2:10. Parents are allowed to come and see their kids take videos and take out pictures.
So the academic awards program will be held on Tuesday, April 29th at 6 p.m. in the high school auditorium. This event will be newly combined with the senior honors assembly. The ceremony congratulates 10th through 12th graders at LHS who have a cumulative average GPA of 3.75 or above. Seniors that have applied for any local unannounced scholarships are required to attend, and students who are participating in the event should arrive at 5:30. There is a blood drive May 1st for LHS students and staff as well. If a student wants to donate blood, they have to fill out the form that was sent out on Monday in their email. They have to be at least 16, and students receive community service hours for donating. And also, groups like Student Council are readily preparing for Teacher Appreciation Week, May 5th through 9th. I'm sure this applies to many other schools as well.
I'll also say something also about the blood drive is that I believe if you do it twice, you get a cord for it when you graduate. So just for obviously the juniors out there, if you're interested, because yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay, for the middle school, the M-STEP starts April 28th, and then again just goes through the middle of May. The district art fair is May 8th, and this year they're doing it all as a district, and the first year they're doing it as a district. And then the Spanish classes, they're going to the Detroit Institute of Arts on May 9th, and I did actually talk to some of the kids, like Macy Common, and they were saying that they were very excited about going.
At Central, if you aren't already aware by the slight commotion in the Commons, the 4th grader spring concert is currently happening just a short walk from here. The 5th grader spring concert is tomorrow, and they will be performing their work with ukuleles for the first time. And 5th grade started M-STEP testing this week, and this will continue into next week.
For Linden out, the Scholastic Book Fair is April 21st through the 25th, and they're actually allowed to have, like, there's the parent volunteers, which I know some of the moms are doing it and they love it. And then April 24th is, the kindergartners go to Frankenmuth Wilderness Trail Zoo. And then April 30th, 2nd and 3rd grade are having, their music concerts.
And High honored Mrs. Carter, as it is Administrative Assistance Day today. Mrs. Carter is very much appreciated by everyone at their school. And also, students are excited for the art fair and upcoming spring concerts. And a volunteer breakfast will be held on May 2nd. Mr. Stricker and Officer Williams will be making the breakfast to show appreciation for all their help.
And then at Argentine Elementary, again, just every Tuesday and Thursday are the Play Together, Learn Together, parent-child exploration class. April 30th, again, just the Jamboree, and then Family Open Gym Night, I believe it's actually tonight, is 5:30 to 7. And then again, we're always looking for service opportunities for NHS.
All right, thank you very much, ladies. I always look forward to and appreciate your very thorough updates on everything going on throughout the district. It's nice for us that aren't in all the buildings all the time to hear about the fun things going on. Mr. Sosowski.
Yeah, I just have a couple things, ladies stole some of them, so. But, the forgiven time waiver. So the Michigan Department of Education provides each school district, with 6 unforgiven days each year, our school, basically our snow days. There is a waiver process through Michigan Department of Ed that allows for up to 3 of those days over the 6 to be forgiven. This afternoon, Linden Community School did submit the waiver for the 2 additional days because we had 8 total. So they indicate in our response that it'll be 5 to 10 business days. Once we get that information, one way or the other, we'll communicate that out. Just a reminder to the board that the Genesee County Association of School Board Members Annual CBA Award Scholarship Ceremony and dinner is scheduled for tomorrow evening. The event is hosted at the GCI Conference Center. Reception is 5:30 to 6, dinner at 6, and the award presentation at 7. And again, congratulations to Brooke Hansen, who will be recognized for her CBA accomplishments. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Any board members with reports this evening? Okay, Mr. Montague?
Thanks, Ms. Luck. Good evening, everybody. This morning, I attended the CTE Spring Advisory Meeting. So if you don't know, CTE is Career and Technical Education. So it includes teachers and coordinators from not only Linden, but also Fenton and Lake Fenton. Mrs. Thomas was also in attendance this morning. And we have our awesome Linden representative, Miss Carrie Parkin. And essentially on the call, they have a mix of the CTE coordinators and also people that are in business to make sure that the curriculum that all 3 of the schools are putting into place resonate with people that are in the work world and business. And it's always great to hear what the different schools are doing. I can say that Linden is definitely, I'd say, at the tip of the spear of a lot of things. And the thing that caught my attention the most this morning was, you might recall, Ms. Parkin had come to us last year and we had purchased a heat press with the intent of essentially making and selling ultimately our own shirts, and they have now pressed over 1,000 shirts, and it's been very successful, and they were really touting how much experience the kids are getting, not only from making the shirts themselves, but also marketing them and the communications around it and all that, so they're really looking forward to seeing that continue to evolve. And I think the ultimate kind of I'd say integration with the community would be once we get to a good process and all that. So we've been talking about them potentially actually selling those to broader, say, local businesses, or even a lot of the different organizations that have shirts printed up. And we're talking about a partnership with a larger embroidery and printing company. So really exciting, and I think that really caught the attention of the other schools. So fun to be a part of that. That's all I have. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Any other board members with updates? All right, I'll just mention a couple of things. We did have a board workshop last Wednesday, where all board members were here, and we got an update from Brad Vanasek, who's with the Michigan Association of School Board, and he gave us a legal update, student discipline update, and just sort of board member expectation update. So it was really good to just kind of refresh ourselves for those of us that have been on the board a little longer, and for those newer members, hearing straight from an organization that, is kind of benchmark best practices. So it was good to have that opportunity. It left me walking away from it feeling really good to be part of Linden Community Schools and part of our board. I think we're doing pretty good work here, so that was a good thing. Yes, it is Administrative Professionals Day. Thank you, Mrs. Callard, for all you do for the district and specifically for the board, including being here and taking our minutes every meeting. Thank you very much. A shout out to Ms. Hansen, who, as Mr. Sosowski mentioned, will be given some awards tomorrow evening for her work with MASB and her training there with the CBA program, so that is great. And then the girls mentioned May 8th about the art fair. This really isn't really a board update, it's just like a came to my mind update, so I'm gonna mention it. May 8th is gonna be a really exciting evening around the property of Linden High School. We have the district-wide board meeting going on. As I understand it, there's a home track meet that night, and there's a JV and varsity lacrosse game going on. So get here early, use your patience with parking, and enjoy the fun festivities on our campus that evening. So should be a good night in the district. All right, that's all I have this evening. We do not have any special presentations or recognitions this evening, so we'll move along to our administrative updates, which we have Mr. Dreasky and Mr. Gates here to present an update on Linden High School.
Thank you very much. Before we get going here, I've got Mike and Pete's name on there, and I just wanna make sure I give them. Mike is here, I think Pete's out at the soccer game, and collectively speaking, I think, administratively, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention those guys. Mike will chime in here a little bit, but to get going, what I'd like to do is just kind of give you an overview, some updates, obviously. Coming into board meetings, you've had access to see this space, the commons, and there's some other things around the building that maybe you haven't. Some demographical information, some highlights. I could probably have spent an entire presentation on just the highlights, whether it be academically, athletically. There's a lot going on here. Some of the initiatives that we have going, some programs, and what we're doing moving forward. So to kick that off, kind of going through and give you kind of a video or a pictorial view of that. Up in the left-hand corner, every time you walk in the main entrance, you see that new academic hall of fame, which I think came up pretty sharp. One of the neat things this year that we started with, thanks to Heather Josephson, was those two pictures in the middle, Pass the Torch, where she kind of coordinated our kindergartners to come out, and they, with our senior class, it was kind of the beginning and the end. So the kindergartners started at one end of the football field, seniors started at the other end of the football field, and they kind of met in the middle. And it was a really neat event. I think something that hopefully we can continue to make more of a tradition. So it was really cool. The bottom, with Central Elementary, Ms. Messer has done a great job in coordinating with Central Elementary and some of those kids to get them over here, get them in that STEM lab. That's one of those inventions class game day to where our students develop their own board games, and then they'll have the fifth graders come over, and then they will kind of run through all those games and kind of judge who has the best board game. So that was pretty cool. And the update there, I threw that in there because anytime I send out an update for the high school, it's just hopefully an eye-catching icon where I can attach that to information coming out from the high school that catches people's eyes. Some of the building updates, obviously with the senior commons, that picture there on the left, just every time you come in, you may have seen it, that it's empty. I can assure you that it's not empty all the time. The picture on the left there is I think Mrs. Darin either conducting a class or student leadership or student council event. And then you have students there using the monitors out there at those small tables to do some classwork as well. So that commons area does get used quite a bit. Some more building updates, some interactive displays that we have. If you haven't noticed, we're down by the gym. We've really done a lot of work. It's not complete yet, but you wouldn't believe the logistical things of photographing, 5,000 things and trying to get them all in a digital display. That's still a work in progress, but I think Rosa and Pete have done a great job with that. We've got the Hall of Fame, the picture on the left, on the lower right-hand side there, and that is, if you go down to that interactive display and you touch the Hall of Fame, that is up to date. All of that Hall of Fame information is in there, and it is pretty slick. So we're hoping to have that ready to go in the fall. But that's another update there. We have those displays in the cafeteria as well on the right-hand photograph, and we have them more throughout the building in the commons area here. We have another one down by the junior locker area to where we're able to put, some announcements and things like that, and scroll them throughout the day just to get information out there. I kept the Athletic Hall of Fame photograph in there. Obviously, it's not complete. It is, I kept it in there just for a visual, because there was a lot of work to get it to that point, from Pete, from Rosa, with our facilities and maintenance crew to set that stuff up. Once we get it down in the fall and we have a rededication, it's really gonna look sharp. And all of that memorabilia that we have, we still have it, it's secure, and it will be put back in there once we get that stuff updated. But like all of the construction stuff that we went through last year, it is a process, it's time consuming, and you run into things that, oh geez, I didn't think about that, that makes it a little bit longer. So I think once we get to that point with the Hall of Fame, it's gonna look really, really sharp. Moving on to some building demographics, a lot of you, obviously our 9th grade classes and 10th grade classes are roughly the same. Moving on, 12th graders, 213, but we got about 804 kids, the second count this year. Some other slides here, I'll get to the staff and the students and success and some initiatives that we have. Our building, Our teaching staff, we got about 44. Our front office staff is 14, ancillary staff. All of those people on the left-hand side, which make up Linden High School, really makes it fit. You know, yeah, you can have Mike and I and Pete, but when the rubber meets the road, it's those people that are a part of our staff, whether it be teaching staff or ancillary staff, that really make this place go. I put the departments in there because of the new business. There are some, like PE and health, they're in the applied arts department. The STEM is associated with business. So we kind of combine some of those things, but that's basically what our building looks like. And a visual representation, I mean, that's everybody we got. That's our teaching staff, that's our ancillary staff, that is our cooks, that is our anybody and everybody, social skills facilitator, the home monitor. These are the people really that make this place go. And they're fantastic. I've said it in other presentations, and I'll say it again tonight. This is the only place that I've ever been as far as a work. I was hired in here as a teacher, and now as the building principal, and I listen, and I hear other stories from other people that we hire in from other districts, and talking to other administrators, and I'll put our staff up top to bottom against anybody in the county. It's a great collection of young and old, and it's really a fantastic place to be, and it's all because of these people that we have here. Getting on to some highlights. Going up to the top left, our JV and Varsity Quiz Bowl. They have, Mr. Schneider and Dr. George have kind of created a dynasty. Again, every year it seems like they're winning the Flint Metro League Championship and Quiz Bowl, and this year was no different. Our gymnastics obviously had a great year, finishing 5th in the state. Our wrestlers, they made the Elite Eight. I think their first loss was down at the Elite Eight. The children's champion, we go to that every year. We nominate some of our best and brightest. I think this is the first year in my memory that Blaze and Addison holding the scholarship checks there, that our students actually walked out of that county-wide at that breakfast about a month ago. I mean, you had about 900 people there, you know, and every district in the county. So that's a testament to what they do as individuals, and that's the type of people and kids and students that we're delivering here. And on the lower left there, Addison got us kicked off in the fall. Athletically, you know, we always have all-state athletes, and she did a great job in the fall with cross country. Moving on to some other highlights. We've got a Teacher of the Month program where our staff nominates one another every year or every month for what they do, and then they're selected and displayed out in the right outside the auditorium there. Again, I keep talking about dynasties or esports and what Mrs. St. Clair has done. Another state championship. If you ask me what different leagues that she's associated in and what state I can't do that, but she's won multiple state championships. She's built that esports program, and it's really remarkable. Mr. Burhans in that photograph was honored as the VFW Teacher of the Year. Blake was the Voice of Democracy winner. And one of the things that has come out of that with that in our JROTC program is trying to build a little bit more of a relationship and having some communication with our older veterans and getting our younger kids involved in some of their events, whether it be the Memorial Day Parade and things of that nature. So getting our younger kids involved with our VFW here locally. And again, that the Robo Eagles, that is their first competition this year down in Kettering. Some more highlights. Our band. Mr. Bennett does a great job, and his staff does a great job with our band. That photograph is down at Ford Field when they finished 5th in the state this year. Mr. Montague stole some of my thunder with our school store. That Scan to Order is another one of Mrs. Parkin, who is a rock star, and what she's done to get the school store going and get the word out. We've got some of our own internal service organizations that use it. They're selling with class t-shirts and trying to get incorporated in other pals and all those kind of things as well. So she's done a great job. That picture in the lower left is something our football coach Williams has done for the last several years. It seems to get a community-wide event in Boat Week and getting all of our kids out there, K through 12, just to go out and run around and have a great time out at the stadium. The newer one, Mr. Crow, in our business management class. He sent some students over to Ferris State University. And we actually had 3 of our students finish 3rd in their pitch contest. So that's another testament to what we've done in short order, and our business teachers have done in short order with their classes and their kids. And our cheerleaders were, I don't remember the last time that they qualified for the state, but they had a great year as well, finished 5th. And again, a testament to our coaching staff, as well as Mr. Gleason and the community involvement that he has with he gets all of the teams and everything involved in community service projects. Some of the other highlights, just getting into some numbers. I wanted to give you some numbers about where we're at with some of the new programs in our STEM. Right now, our STEM Innovations program, which is a new class, run by Mrs. Miller, we've got 18 students in that. Science and Society, which is more of a project-based STEM-related class, there's 31 kids in there. We started an AP Computer Science class, we have 12 in there. So obviously, starting those things, we've got interest of our student body. Mrs. Horning provided me with some information about our dual enrollment traditional. The number of kids at Mott Community College, 27, that are enrolled in their early middle college at Mott, 34. We've got kids that are over at U of M Flint that are dual enrolled in the number of classes, college classes that they're taking. We have on the other end of that, to meet those needs of our struggling students and our academically challenged, so we have co-taught courses where we put a gen ed teacher and a special ed teacher in a smaller population with IEP students to provide them access to that gen ed curriculum with some supports. And you can see the business numbers there, and again, Mrs. Parkin is in charge of our co-op. We've got 20 kids in there, target seniors primarily. The school store, we have 13 kids in there that are doing all of those things. Entrepreneurship has been pretty good. Our business management, obviously. So the things that we have put in place, that you've allowed us to put in place from a curricular standpoint, our students are interested, and we're getting in there, and we're having some good success, not just in the classroom, but as that picture from Ferris State can attest to, they're having some success outside of the classroom as well. Again, some more numbers here. On the left side of the screen is more of the AP stuff. And I'll get a little bit more information on the AP. It's tough to see. That top picture there is a summary over the course of what our kids are doing and how many of them are taking, what they're scoring. The bottom smaller one is that 4 or 5 year average of how many of our AP students are scoring a 3 or above. Last year, these are numbers from last year. The AP testing this year doesn't start until May. And that's another wrinkle that we've had to deal with. Our AP teachers have had to deal with. Primarily, it's been done down at the ISD, and our AP students go down and take those exams down there. Now we're having to host that, as we did with our state testing. We're going to do our AP testing out at the multi-purpose building. Our state testing went very well out there. When we tested 9th, 10th, 11th graders out at the multi-purpose building, we're going to do the same thing with our AP testing out there. Some of our, that top box up there, and again, I apologize, it's tough to see. I wanted to put something in there close. Those are our scores from I think there were 48 students that took the NMSQT this fall. And that is, in years past, we've typically had maybe 10, 15 kids, but that's that National Merit Qualifying exam. So we had 48 students score pretty well on that, well above the average there. The middle pictures are PSAT 10 numbers from last year. Haven't gotten those back. They just had the initial state testing a few weeks ago after we got back from spring break, as well as the PSAT 9 results. In both of those cases, our 9th graders and our 10th graders are scoring above that state average. Some of the initiatives that we have here, that we've done this year, with our new school owners, Mrs. Weber and Mr. Gates, really spearheaded getting 36 of our staff CPR certified. So you can see that picture up on the left. We have conducted a variety of in-depth MERT drills, emergency drills with those folks. We had one a couple weeks ago that I was kind of wandered around and watched what was going on, and they had a fantastic handle on it. Nurse Weber and Mr. Gates, they've done a great job with that program. The middle up there, testing with the new digital hall pass. Again, we've worked with, and Mr. Gates has worked with Mrs. Kissel and some synergy things to see what that has the capabilities of, and doing digital hall passes with our teachers. We just kind of ran a pilot with that. And the lower left-hand corner, and I might have him come up here shortly, and give you some more information on our MTSS process, but that's, again, our in-house student assistance team, and that multi-tier system of support. So he'll come up a little bit later and give you some more information on that. You've all seen this, the last board meeting, presenting our curriculum. And that's a big part of what we do here, and those people that I showed you, and how they do it and how they deliver it. These are some of the new things that provide some of that excitement, where they have the ability to go in and really dive into something and develop something. Whether it's trying to get a trade math class to associate with some of the other initiatives that I'll share with you here shortly that we've started. Whether it's diving into a study skills class and really trying to figure out what we can do to hit all of our students. It's top to bottom. You know, the interactive reading that you heard about from Mrs. Yankley has been very, very successful. It's not one of those where you're going to have 31 kids in it, but it has been very, very successful with a small percentage of kids in getting them to move that needle with that reading ability. So all of those things, again, from that standpoint and your support of that, it allows our staff to do what they do every day for our students. Again, this is a very, very busy slide, but these are some of the things that a couple of them I wanted to bring to your attention in DECA and Schools to Tools. The Schools to Tools over there, kind of in the middle on the left-hand side, was an initiative from Heather Fuller, our EDP coordinator, just to kind of bring out that experience. It's kind of a mobile trade type thing where they get an experience in walking through and looking at it. There's virtual welding and all that kind of stuff. So she was able to secure that, bring that out, and let our kids get exposed to that. DECA, again, going back to Mrs. Parkin, she's done a great deal of work. Hopefully we have that in order to where some of that entrepreneur stuff, we're gonna have an opportunity for our students that are in that business department or in that entrepreneur class to get hooked up with that and go to different competitions. So those are some of the things, and I mentioned the Michelle Horning handles our CTE and our Early Middle College Summit. She's really built that up and does a fantastic job with those students that are dual enrolled or in early middle college. She does a great job with those kids and communicating with those post-secondary institutions. Moving on to some of the programs that we have. And again, I mentioned some of that. We've got a pre-apprenticeship program. That photograph, the bigger photograph over there, now that we have a pre-apprenticeship program with Niles Industry in conjunction with Fenton High School. So again, going back to Heather Fuller and Carrie Parkin and Jay Kirky, who went in and got MC3, which is that pre-apprenticeship curriculum certified, to get that up and running. We've got a couple of kids in there now that are doing a great job. They're trying to parlay that into a pre-apprenticeship for them, to where they go in, they do part of their work here, and then they actually go over to Niles and do on the job, or they go in on the job site and actually do the actual work that they do. Again, another photograph of that STEM lab with one of our inventions class, and the utilization of that STEM lab with those classes, and some younger students from Central. Mr. Monty, you mentioned that one of the presses for the t-shirts, there's an actual photograph of what that is and how they do it to get those t-shirts out. You know, so some of those things in a computer science class, what I mentioned with 12 students, Mrs. Miller, Christy Miller, does a fantastic job with those. I've got no reason to believe that particular class is not going to be built on that. And I mentioned PFL with that personal finance literacy, which was a requirement now with our incoming ninth graders. We are continuing to look at that and dial that in, because we've had an existing personal finance curriculum due to Becky Shells for years. You know, she's a sharp lady and saw the writing on the wall, something that our students needed. We've had a PFL class here for, I don't know how long, 10 plus years, before that requirement came out. So we're ahead of the game with that, and just dialing that in. Now that we have business, we've got different options, you know, of kids that want to take that traditional math PFL route, or those students that may want to shift a little bit more toward the business route of looking at what we can do to get a PFL class into the business department as well, so we have more options for our students. This is where I'm going to bring Mr. Gates up, and he can explain to you that wonderful, colorful triangle.
This is part of MTSS, the multi-tier system that supports with our behavior. 7 years ago, I came over here and we did discipline through synergy, and it speaks with a program called School-Wide Information Systems, and it breaks down all the discipline. The colorful triangle is the national average for tiers, so you have one general thing you teach to everybody, and then those who fall in the second tier have some kind of additional support with us. It's work with Mr. Murray, our success coordinator, and then the small tier, tier 3, would be working with like behavior plans. You can see kind of our breakdown is extraordinary compared to kind of the national average, and that's based off of ODRs, which is Office Discipline Referrals. Now, I'm very transparent with staff. I'm like, let's write up as many disciplines as we can. Even as a warning, we want to be transparent with what our problems are so we can fix them. So the majority of the disciplines are written by staff, even if they say just a warning, I talk to the student, just so we have transparency of problems that we may have and find ways that we can improve upon them. So you can see our numbers are very well. There's a reward system with it. We've been partners with some businesses. Jersey Mike's has come on board, and just the incentives that you give kids for their positive behavior has really worked out well, but also teaching the expectations of kind of each classroom has their own matrix. We have a school-wide matrix, but our supports in place for behavior part of the MTSS has really worked out quite well. And it just happened to be, I came in the same year we came in with Swiss and doing all the discipline through Synergy. So then the program's working fantastic here.
Moving forward, some of the things looking ahead here, obviously I mentioned that PFL for the class of 2028 and above. I think we've got a pretty good handle on it. We're still dialing, now that we have that business option, looking in and seeing what we can do to provide more opportunities, whether it be that math track specifically, or putting a section or two, depending on need or want in that business, but just to provide more opportunity. We have, again, used Synergy and used Mrs. Kissel since she's been here. Unfortunately, at the end of the year, she's going to be moving to Hyatt, I believe it is, and we won't have her here for all of this stuff. We'll have to call her and beg her to come back and help us. But some of the things that she's helped us do with electronic letters home, whether it's absence letters or things of that nature. Again, going back to our business department, especially Mrs. Parkin, getting some of the CTE stuff dialed in so we can potentially capture some of those Perkins dollars and fund it. Done a great job with creating a DECA chapter for our kids that are in that business track to take advantage of some of those competitions and opportunities. I mean, there's scholarship money there, if nothing more. Then it gives them that experience and opportunity to go outside of our comfortable walls here and experience it, whether it be a Ferris or whether it be another competition. We're going to continue to hammer away through the work of Mrs. Thomas and our department heads on balanced assessments and looking at what we do every day and our teachers do every day with that curriculum, making sure they're aligned to those success criteria, and those are being assessed, or computational thinking that we built in a little bit this year, making sure that now that we have a business department and CTE and DECA and some of those things, that our kids are continuing to be college and career ready, and having that opportunity, that we're not just looking at those kids going to a four-year university, but now we have opportunities for them if they want to go into the world of work, if they want to go into a trade. Those opportunities are out there for them. I put drama club in there. I'm hoping, I would love to get back to the days that we have a drama club and the ability to put on plays. And I remember when my children were really young and we had plays, we would bring them up and it would be great. I've been in contact with a local person here that has students in our district. I'm hoping by next year that we'll have a drama department that covers elementary, K through 12, anybody that wants to be a part of it. That hopefully is going to happen. We want to concentrate. We've done some more work on departmental PLCs, getting our departments together so they have time to share ideas and to plan and things of that nature. And we really want to moving forward with that pre-apprenticeship program. We want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with what we're doing here, but in conjunction with what Fenton's doing to make sure that we're growing that program as well, to make that more successful. Questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dreasky, Mr. Gates. I know there's always, questions and opportunities for, improvement in all of our areas, but I really appreciate and want to celebrate all the wonderful things going on at Linden High School. So thank you both for sharing with us and for all the great work, and please pass along our gratitude to the staff as well, because I appreciate how you highlighted many staff members and how it takes everyone to make, things successful. So thank you for that. Any questions or comments from board members? Yes. We'll start with Mr. Murphy, then we'll go to Mr. Ramber.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dreasky and Mr. Gates, for the presentation. There's a lot going on here at Linden. I appreciate that. A lot of diverse, utilizing technology to really expand what opportunities the kids have. It's great. Sometimes I get a little bit concerned when technology starts to really take away the personal touch. And I kind of look back to what you've got going with the Hall of Fame and all that area down there. It just seems like to me like there's very little personal touch anymore. And even after you're done completed there with the small area you've got allocated towards the Hall of Fame, whether or not it will be very personal. I mean, if you have to go hit a button to start search a person versus just looking up at a wall and seeing a person's face or whatever, then okay, oh, that person. But when you have to start thinking about, let's see, what was that person? When did they graduate? Or all this kind of stuff, that I'm just concerned that people won't go there. They'll just kind of it'll just be a lost thing. So I'm really concerned about that, the personal connection from the building, from the past to the present, and hopefully to the future. I mentioned back in the summer when you brought this idea to us about digitizing all that stuff. I mean, I understand what space is limited. We cannot have an endless amount of that, and digitizing will preserve it for the future. But again, I mentioned I particularly find, in addition to Hall of Fame people, I think that state champions also need to be recognized. There's very few state champions that actually win at any level, in any whether a team, an individual. There's just very few state champions here at Linden. And I just feel like those people should always be recognized in perpetuity. And I don't really see any kind of allowance there in what you've got set up so far.
Right now with that, there's one of those showcases out there that has all of those. I agree with you, Mr. Murphy, that's something that personal touch, you've got to find that fine line, I guess. I mean, what's not up there right now is we want to keep some of that personal with our all-state photographs. Within that, we've got a 4-year window, just so those all-state photographs are going to go up, and those current members of the Hall of Fame are going to go back up in there. The plaques are up in there. So some of that stuff, is it ideal? No, I'm an old school guy as well. But as far as the state championships, they're right now. I'm trying to visualize it in my head. If I'm looking at that digital display, all of those are in the right-hand trophy case. All of our state championships, those that are Metro League championships are on the left side. Our state level MHSA stuff, especially those state championships. I think there's one in it maybe from 1968, 1970. So I agree with you 100%, and we're going to do our very, very best to make sure that with the space that we have now, that we certainly, because I agree that we just don't have that many state championships, but at the end of the day, with our regional championships, our district championships, we want to recognize those as well.
Yeah, I understand that, but I do feel like seeing more actual, I'm just concerned that when we reduce it to a TV screen as our source of getting all this information, that it just, people won't go there. I don't think they'll go there very often. It's nice in the sense you can go further and deeper into each team and each area than you could if you tried to continue to maintain the trophy cases as we had them before, because obviously they were running out of space. But I know you've eliminated a lot of trophy cases and gone to student centers for learning and stuff like that. So I guess that was the trade-off made there. The other thing that I was concerned about, again, personal things here, is we had the pictures of all the previous grad classes that was on the wall outside the auditorium. I was disappointed with myself that I didn't realize that wasn't being continued over the years. I think 87 was the last year that we did that.
The flip charts that were out there
Yeah.
before the renovation, we still have those.
Yeah, yeah. That's what-
That wasn't a complete set, but we still have those, you know, we do have designs on having a plan for those, whether it be putting them back up. We have class photographs, I can't remember as long as I've been here. We take a senior class photo, we have those photographs. That's the one of the rubs right now, is that what do we do with the old ones that, quite frankly, if we're gonna put them back up, we had talked about getting something that's newer that is gonna display those, or do we digitize them and put them in there? So we're still figuring out what we're gonna do. We still have all that stuff, we've got all the Hall of Fame memorabilia. You know, it's just a matter of making sure that when it's done, we do it right and it looks good. I just didn't wanna put up that stuff back with the shape that it was in.
Well, I guess I don't know how quote unquote bad a shape that wall of pictures was, because to me it was very efficient in how it maintained 30, 40 years of graduates from the school district. Was on that little block of wall. You could go back, oh, my aunt graduated, my brother, my father, whatever. You could go back and flip through and quickly find it. And I just thought that was a nice touch. And it didn't take up a lot of space. And I thought it was kind of something that deserved to continue to be. In fact, I would like to see us go back. You mentioned that there's probably some pictures, class photos. Obviously the yearbook is created with individual senior class pictures. It's too bad that we can't have them put onto a plate like those other classes up till 87 were, and add all those years and continue that into the future. It might add 4, 5, 6, 7 more plates to that hanger, but to me, you can't get a more valuable piece of space than all of that. That's precious in my world. You know, for a community like this, people come to the auditorium all the time to do events and stuff like that. And it's just a nice way to kind of like have a way to kind of reflect on the past. So I really hope you don't do something like just go away from it completely and go to another digital thing, because again, I think we gotta have a little bit of stuff on the wall. Okay? So to me, that would be one of those things I would advocate. You know, I just get a little, the walls get a little antiseptic around here anymore. There's like, you know, there's nothing on it. It's just, and so that concerns me. But, so those are my concerns about that. There's some stuff coming up this afternoon, later in the meeting, which we'll be talking about regarding the handbook. And I hope you'll be around to maybe chime in when we get to that point. Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Randberg?
Hi, I really appreciate the presentation. I think it's awesome, and I agree that I think Linden's one of the best schools in the county. What I was really paying attention was to the SOAR, the discipline, and I like the positive rewards that we're doing. So one thing I wanted to agree with, really quick before I go back to the discipline, was I am appreciative of the Hall of Fame, because selfishly my dad is in the Hall of Fame. I have not seen that digital part yet, but I'd like to go maybe see it before I leave tonight, so it sounds like it's awesome. And I know a lot of the community that is alumni, they were concerned about that when they found out through social media that it was going away. So is there a way for them to know that, hey, you're not forgotten about, we have you digitized? Is there a way to make an announcement?
We can certainly do that. When we decided to do that, you know, and have those things digitized and bringing the vendor to do that, spend the time doing that, when that was all done, we did have 3 days of kind of an open house. We tried to get back, and I was surprised at how many of those All-State photographs and those Hall of Fame plaques that we were actually able to get back into the actual athlete's hand or somebody from the family.
Yes, I have them.
You know, so, I mean, that was, for me, that was a big ticket item to get those back to the right people. Some of them obviously, have passed on, but getting it back and being able to sit there and talk to a family member and reminisce and do all those types of things. We even were able to open that up to, anybody that may have been on a Metro League championship team, that they could come in. I mean, if they were on a Metro League hockey championship team back in, 1992. We had players come in with their folks, so the folks come in and they were able to take some of those meaningful things that they had experienced in high school as a part of that team with them. There were very little things that we had left over. Like I said, out of all the Hall of Fame plaques, we have a very small box left that we're still trying to find somebody to get those to.
Okay, awesome, that makes me feel good, just 'cause I know, like I said, being affected, like, it was a big thing. And then my other thing was the Teachers of the Month. I know you said it's nominated by staff, I think that's pretty much throughout the district. Has there ever been a talk about maybe the students kind of getting on that too at the high school level, since they're older and, to realize what an honor it is? I know my kids might have been like, I want this teacher to get it.
We
Maybe
really
like-
haven't gone down that road, not that we can't, but we really haven't gone. It's always been, you know, kind of student or staff driven to nominate one another, but that's not something that you know, would be out of the question, at least in the discussion.
Like maybe like bold, because I'm not just saying that to change it. And the other thing would be with the discipline, the bullying possibly that's going into high school. Is there a better way that we could possibly handle it? Because most of the kids that are in the high school now were affected during COVID. Every year they went through it, and the mental health went through the roof, the crises went through the roof. And having 2 students in the district that experienced that pretty heavily, every school district has it. Do we have a way that we're tracing this of reports? Is there a way that a student can anonymously report this? Is there some way that, hey, this is happening to me at this hour, this is happening to me here, so they don't feel targeted? To let you know, hey, this person that is on possibly the academic awards, sports teams, someone that you would not think would be an offender, could help the victim to where they are not going to be pinpointed. I'm just really worried about mental health in general as a mother, a parent, and on the school board. I want our kids to be able to learn, and they can't learn if they feel like they're coming into an environment where some of their peers are not allowing them to mentally focus on the curriculum and deal with the emotional things.
Well, I think we're not perfect. I'm not gonna sit here and say otherwise. We're high school, we've got teenagers, you've got social media. You know, I can't say that that's a lot of where that stuff comes from my lens, is that social media. And then unfortunately, that carries over and has a significant impact with students here at school. I think our social worker, our psychologist, our school nurse, the things that we have in place, we're in, with Okay to Say, we get routinely, we get those things from them and follow up with what that is. When we get those things, try to communicate with parents and make sure they're in the loop. And, you know, as far as being anonymous, that's not part of what we do and how we do it.
Okay.
And whether it be that or any other discipline area, if somebody has a concern, whether it's a parent or a student, then we take the utmost responsibility and try to keep that as quiet as we can for just their sake.
Okay, I was just asking, before I was coming to the board meeting, there was an executive order signed today about staff being able to discipline now and trying to basically, a problem that's been going on throughout the years, staff will possibly be able to start disciplining in the classroom. So that's why I was kind of wondering, like, how are we handling this going forward?
Well, I think I'm not in every classroom by any stretch of the imagination, but I think, you know, the staff that we have, the professional staff does a great job with our mentoring our young staff as far as classroom management, building relationships, you know, in whatever discipline we're having in the class. I mean, it's minor disciplines where, and Mr. Gates mentioned, they have the ability to enter that, just being transparent, so we know what we're dealing with, and how to combat it, how to tackle it. I think our staff does a fantastic job in, we always have students that have at least a teacher or two or somebody that they feel comfortable with, that they will say that if they don't wanna come down to the office for fear, I don't wanna be seen coming into the office. And, we understand that, you know, we kind of preach to our staff and the students as well, find somebody that you're comfortable with, confide in them, and if that's something that we get from that staff member, hey, I had a conversation with a student, and this is going on, you know, just so we know, so like there's an open line of communication, so we can jump on it as quick as we can.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
All right, well, thank you again, and also thank you for entertaining our ideas, you know, we all have some, so we appreciate listening to us as well. And just actually one quick thing on the, this might be a follow-up for Mr. Gleason, actually. But I think one of the benefits to the Digital Hall of Fame information was that eventually it was gonna be on the athletic website as well. So that really will broaden the scope of everybody's access to celebrate those accomplishments, which is awesome. So I don't think it's there yet, but,
Not quite, it'll get there.
yeah, I think that's a pretty cool opportunity too. So thank you very much, both of you. All right, this brings us to the part of the meeting for public comments, and I think we have a public comment this evening.
We do, and reminders.
Just as a reminder, for public comments, the comments are meant to be limited to 3 minutes in duration and directed to the board president. If warranted, we will get a response from myself or Mr. Soselski before the next board meeting.
Okay, great, thanks. Hi, I'm Amber Myers. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. I have 5 children at Linden Community Schools. Unfortunately, last Monday, April 14th, my son was called the N-word at school. And although this was the most blatant racist attack he received, it has not been the only racial slur. Most of them have been, ignorance or fear or awkwardly, poorly worded questions. No, they're not going to say, why do African Americans frequently speak with a different vernacular? They're going to say, how come black people talk funny? But there will be comments about his hair. Obviously, it's different. And so when we are starting to do dreads, it's a transition, just like anybody's hairstyle. There are awkward periods, and people said, how come it looks like there's little balls of pink all over your hair? And there have been a lot of just different unfortunate instances where somebody drew a picture of a monkey with his face on it with Snapchat. And Mr. Stricker did a phenomenal job of handling that. But I would really appreciate it if we had more cultural or racial awareness and inclusion. Because it's something where I think that as a predominantly white district, it's our job and our duty, because the kids do not get the opportunity to have this exposure, so they have to have it artificially implanted. And some of these questions are very valid. Do black people need to wear sunscreen? They do. There are a lot of other questions that kids honestly, it's not wrong to say, hey, I can see your hair's different, I'm curious about it. Or, why is it that your parents are white? There are a lot of questions that are great, so I think it would be awesome if we created a safe space for these kids to ask questions to a more appropriate party. Because my son's 9, and he is incapable of handling all of the questions. And I think that in general, I've heard a lot of other parents, adopted children or other black families express the same. And I think that it could be possibly a representative of the African American community would be best, because I know I don't know what it's like to be black, or I can't answer all those questions. Just because I have a black son does not make me an authority figure. And or more inclusion with possibly partnering with other districts that have a higher percentage of people of color or other races. Doing just getting together to not even necessarily talk about it, although that would be a good portion of it, but to just interact. Just like, hey, this person's just like me. Hey, I like dinosaurs. What do you like? Oh my gosh, you like dinosaurs too? Holy cow! And the younger the better, definitely, because I don't see this getting better as they get older. They might be more aware of what's appropriate to say and what's not appropriate to say. But I think the big issue here is the lack of exposure and the inability to get it. And what they see on social media or the news or anywhere else is not where we want them getting their information from. So thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight, for your advocacy, and for sharing your personal story. Okay, we will move along now to the consent agenda, which consists of minutes from our work session on April 9th, the minutes of the closed session from April 9th, minutes of our special board meeting workshop on April 16th, invoices for the month of March, and the personnel summary sheet. It is the administrative recommendation to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported. All of those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have a couple of action items this evening. First up is our parent-student handbook adoptions for 2025-26. This includes the district K-12 student parent handbook and the Linden athletic handbook. At the last meeting, there was discussion about the handbooks and specifically the LHS exam exemption policy and language. It is the administrative recommendation to move forward with the LHS exam exemption language as it was presented, with some additional work in the future of investigating how this is working specifically with some additional data and whatnot. But at this point, it is the administrative recommendation to approve the 25-26 handbooks as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded, so with that, we can now have some discussion if there's additional comments or questions. I think Mr. Murphy has something.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Luck. And I guess, I'm not gonna go back and reiterate all my concerns, everybody at the board heard it last week. It's just a fairness factor here for me, and it's also whether or not it's in the best interest of our students to allow certain students, based on what they've done in that school year, as part of the determining factor as far as their grades, and then also their attendance and their tardiness, also playing into the fact of whether or not they should be required to take a final exam.
Mr. Murphy?
Oh.
Sorry,
Go
you
for
turn
it.
your microphone on.
Okay.
Yes,
So, you know, it just concerns me that, again, we're segregating out certain students to not have to take these exams. What really, kind of one of the things that really bothers me is that, you know, a person who's 70% student in a tough class, like say, I was struggling in geometry back in the day. And it wasn't because I didn't go to class and I didn't get there on time. It was a struggle. And so I would have to take an exam under this parameter where somebody who was 5 points better than me, 75% student would have their assignments in, just like I did and all this stuff, would not have to take the exam. And they would have the luxury of taking the exam and not hurting their grade. I mean, whereas I, as a 70% student, would have to take the exam, and if I did worse than that, it would hurt my grade. And that lack of fairness in that particular issue right there is just ridiculous, in my opinion. That's like the underlying fact of whether we're taking these exams. I believe we should take all the exams. I really think that's in our best interest of our student body. I think the teachers have options on how they can discipline students for not attending class and not attending on time. And I think that's what drove this whole program when Mr. Dreasky brought it to us years ago. And it was designed to be like, let's get better attendance, let's get better tardiness or less tardiness. So the bottom line was there, it's over the 5-year period, we've only seen like a 3% improvement, I think, if that's correct, Mr. Dreasky, I don't know if he left or something like that. He gave us some information that showed about a 3% improvement, and to me that didn't really rock my world as a reason to have all these students impacted by that. Again, I think just there's other strategies that the teachers can use to encourage students to come to class. I mean, it is the law in the land that, at least in the state of Michigan, that you have to come to school. It's, or if you're not homeschooled or not some other program, but if you're enrolled in our school district, you have to come to school. And if you don't, there's consequences, truancy and all that kind of stuff if it gets bad enough. So we've got these students that are basically allowed to have a little bit of absences and still get free passes on taking exams and stuff like that based on where their level of accomplishment is, whether it's an 83% or above, or it's a 73% or above, dictates that. So, I guess to me, like I said, parents need to be involved in getting kids to school. We as the school district, we're like the, you know, you can make a horse, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's true. We are the water here for the horse. The horse would be like the students, and the parents would be like the people that ride the horses. So the horses, we provide them with the water, and if they're smart, they're going to drink the water, else they're not going to live very long. So, and the parents would also be a secondary factor in kind of making sure that their kids hang in there and would quote unquote drink the water. So just kind of a weird example, but it's a classic, it's a true example basically of what it is. It's you know, we're providing the opportunity for kids to be successful, and but we need help. We need help from the students and we need help from the parents. So the bottom line is, I think we should go back to the old days where we required everybody to take final exams throughout 3 years, and that they count. And we'll let these teachers decide what level of test they need to design to be a fair representation for their class. You know, I think that's the fairest way to do it, and it worked for so many years. And I just think with the minimal improvement that we've seen in this area of tardiness and absenteeism, that I just don't think it's appropriate for us to continue with this program. And like I said, especially when you have little carve-outs like those who don't have to take the exam but choose to take the exam can only improve their grade, but those who have to take the exam can have their grade negatively impacted. So, you know, people that I talk to about this, they just don't understand. They think it's kind of crazy, quite frankly. So, and I kind of agree, basically. I don't know, Mr. Dreasky, if you wanted to chime in at all and give us any additional information?
Well,
I mean,
I was just gonna I know there was more information Mr. Sosowski was gonna be requesting from the administration moving forward on this, so I'm not sure that this is the appropriate time to
Well,
get immediate feedback.
okay.
I guess that's.
I mean, obviously, Mr. Sosowski implied in his recommendation to us today that we go to status quo for another year. And my comments to Mr. Sosowski this morning is, what's gonna really change? Why can't we do change now? Why do we have to wait another year to do change? I think the facts and all the information is right in front of us. It really won't take that much time to decide, should everybody have to take the exam? Should anybody who does take the exam have it count towards their grade? Those kind of things, I don't know why those kind of things can't be decided in less than a year. Why we have to take another year to get to this point? So that's what I'm reasoning about. Maybe Mr. Dreasky or Mr. Sosowski, but
I guess a lot of my answer to that question, Steve, as I mentioned earlier to you, you know, if there is a change or if there isn't a change, or if there isn't a change, I think, in fairness to everybody involved, let's do our diligence. Let's do our diligence on it. The change may occur. I mean, it's been in place 4 years, the change may not occur, and I think that's working with Mr. Dreasky and his staff and doing our diligence on that process. We may find something better, and we may not. I don't know that answer. I think just making a wholesale change for the sake of making a change without doing our diligence on it, good or bad, may not be in our best interest overall.
well, my only concern is that, my biggest concern is there gonna be an absolute process in place here to look at this in a serious manner, and that we would have a recommendation for next year, based on all the information that we have with this 5-year pilot program we've gone through, that we would say, you know what, based on all the information that we've got, this part didn't help, this part can be done a different way. You know, I think there's just a number of different things that could happen. Maybe it's not a wholesale replacement of the program, but to me, I just gotta have some confidence that we're gonna take a serious look at this. And like I said, I raised these concerns last year, maybe not as specifically as I did this year, but the bottom line is, there didn't seem to be any movement on that till this year. Seems like this is the most promise I've heard that there might actually be consideration to change it. So that's what, I still think we can do it faster than a year. I think we can do some of it right now within the next couple months. We should maybe postpone this part of the book for another month and let you, the brain trust here, talk about these issues and see if there's any changes that make sense right now. I mean, I guess that would be my only suggestion right now, because obviously there's a lot of information that hasn't been discussed. I thought maybe there might be some discussion between our last meeting when we had discussion on this and now. It really doesn't sound like there's been much, other than we'll just look at it in the future. So, I guess, what is it, I don't know if the administration, how much time they need. Do they need a full year, or can they do something in a month to make some change? Let's make it some change, if there's some change that makes sense, to make it, and if not, then I guess I don't think it's gonna change a year from now either, so.
And to be fair, the administration has looked into this in the past and brought us data to show the improvements that have happened since this policy was put into place. So it's not like they've done nothing, which is why the policy has had some minor changes to it, such as increasing the
Percent of the
grade,
Yeah.
things like that.
About the only thing that's changed.
I guess I would just like to always mention when we talk about this, since I wasn't at the last meeting to say it then, I'll say it now. As a parent in the district who has students and has had students in the high school as well, and maybe the students don't wanna hear this, maybe, I don't know. But I feel like the teachers are still giving exams to students, they're just not calling them final exams. They're taking tests right before exams, whether they're unit tests or comprehensive tests, but the students are still being assessed, all of them, not just the ones that are doing poorly or doing better. Every student takes all the same tests in all the classes until it gets that final opportunity. In my mind, that final opportunity is more of an opportunity for those students who maybe were doing poorly to improve their grade. I can't say that that's what's happening in all cases, and maybe that could be some of this work that would come out of a committee that Mr. Dreasky will head up here to look at. But I think what we'll find is there's far more good coming from this than bad, quite honestly. I know this is an area that Mr. Murphy and I will just always agree to disagree on, because we see it from different viewpoints, and that's okay. I do appreciate some of the concern that you bring with it, Mr. Murphy, genuinely. But I think if we include a lot of different players in this overall review, including, some students, I'd really like to hear from students on this as well. A variety of different students, perhaps, like students that are doing well and students that aren't doing well, and that's just kind of where I stand on this. I think Mr. Montague might have had something to add as well.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Luck. I'll just say that for me, this is kind of a timing issue, and I think it's been known how I've stood on this before, basically in favor of it, primarily because I've seen it benefit my own children, and it certainly has motivated them to perform better with their attendance and with their assignments. However, I will say that this issue in particular is one that I pride myself on being swayed by data, so this is one where if I see some compelling data and hear some good points from fellow members and what comes back from this committee, I can be swayed on this one. I think Mr. Haney made some interesting points last meeting about possibly, even if it's a matter of ratcheting up the percentage, which I think is interesting to look at. I just think, to me, we're at the last meeting of April, we've got 2 meetings in May, and then it's graduation, and all the teachers are gone, all the students are gone. So I would rather not rush this and come up with a comprehensive committee or team that really takes a firm look at this with Mr. Dreasky and teachers and students and curriculum directors and all the right people. And let's not rush this. And beyond that, I think a lot of the students also, my students that are here have already got their head around kind of what classes they're going to be taking next year. So I wouldn't want to make this jarring change I don't think that's as important of a point to me as it is to give the administration the right time to really research this and come back with some different options or a recommendation. And like I said, I'm open to it. I'd be in favor of approving this for another year. Again, I'm generally in favor of it now, but I am open to some changes or modifications if that's what the team recommends. So that's where I'm at.
All right.
Just one quick.
Well,
go back here.
hold on a second.
Sorry.
Lori had something she wanted to add.
Well, you had just said talking about students' perspectives on it. I think that is definitely good for some of the students, especially students who haven't gotten the best grades, because it gives them motivation to want to do better and want to come to school. But I also completely understand your side. I think someone had made a comment last week, and it could have been Mr. Murphy, about kids who, or maybe I was even talking to Mr. Sosowski about kids just being like, oh, well, I have one more day, I can skip it for a sick day. Like, that's definitely not necessary, and I don't think there's much people can do that they can do to control it. But I definitely say from a student's perspective and actually talking with kids that we do appreciate that they let us do this, but, I also did talk to Mr. Sosowski about some, what's the word? Alternatives, alternative options, but just, I mean, I don't know Ella and what she's talked with some kids about, but even talking with some of the freshmen, I have a younger sister who is, and she's like, oh, I knew coming to high school that like I have to try harder, and I was like, yeah, it's high school, but, she's like, yeah, just really for exams, and I was like, okay, like that makes sense, and kind of talking to some of her friends as well, but I do also see your point of, you know, like that it might not benefit us as well, but I also agree with you, Mr. Montague, about getting, you know, data on it that you guys would be able to see, maybe you guys feel better about.
Just one more quick go back here.
All right.
The most important, well, one of the most glaring things is this thing about allowing the people that do take the test that have above the qualify for the opt-out to take the test and have the not hurt their grade. I don't understand why that is in play when a student who has to take the test does have their test and got it. That is the most glaring thing of this whole document. The other things you definitely argue against, but this part here should be stricken. It should be that if the student chooses to take the exam, that it impacts the grade, just like any student that takes the exam. That to me is so basic. And the fact of the matter is that the data that Mr. Dreasky gave us is that about 85% of the students opt out of taking the exam that could take it, 100% that could take it, which would be A students, some B students, and some C students, okay? So it disappoints me that would not be all the B students and okay, you're saying if you're an A student, why take the exam? It can't get any better than I've already got an A. But if you're a B student or C student, shouldn't you automatically take this exam? I mean, that's the concern I have, and I don't think that's happening when 85% of the people are not taking. Now, I don't know how many of the 85% is A students, maybe that's 50%. Maybe there's 35% that are in this era of, I'm a B student or I'm a C student, and I can improve my grade. But I'm not even taking it, and I can't hurt my grade. That doesn't seem to be a very smart thing to do if I'm a student. That's very disappointing. So, to me, that should be taken out of there. If you want to study hard and improve your grade, then great. Go ahead, take that exam because you've got the opt-out. But if you don't want to, then, but it's just unfair that person takes it and it doesn't have an impact or grade, whereas a lower person has to take the test and it will impact it. That's plain and simple. That's my comment, so, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
So from that aspect, to speak to some of your concerns, I think just by the presence of you vocalizing it, I would say collectively as a board, that is probably our expectation, is that we do have a more comprehensive look at it with the data sets, and that's the things you laid on the agenda as well. Regarding the actual, much to what you said, Ms. Lund, these kids are taking tests. Between the assessments from the state and throughout the course of the year, they do take tests. So whatever we want to label that last test of the year, final exam. So we are making sure that the kids are proficient in those topics. I guess that's my comments, is that I'm with Mr. Murphy as far as coming up with a formal approach to assessing. And like I said, my thing this year has been to try to get that percentage point up a little bit more each year. To a point where, like you said, whether that be mid-Bs, As, to where we deal with the exemption.
I don't have a problem with the 15% weighted scale for the final exam. That's the thing that's in play here, that they've adjusted from 10 to 15. I think that makes sense. I think 10's a little low. I think 20 might be too high. So I'm comfortable with 15%
Well,
in the middle.
at the end of the day, though, it's not what we're comfortable with. Like, we have to remember our lane as board members too, and that's helping to set the policy and approve the handbook. It's up to the administration to determine the percentages and all that.
Well, then
so.
I'm not comfortable.
And that's understood.
I would love to see my fellow board members, again, just to talk about that one topic about the grade being allowed to improve the test.
Okay.
Nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Well, there's a motion on the table right now, so I'd like to, call the question on that. regarding voting on the motion that's on the table. Should the motion fail, we can look back at a different option, I suppose, but, I need a second on calling the questions, and I'm stopping the conversation. Oh, thank you. All right, so,
Do we need a vote on
sure, we can, all those in favor of
calling the question?
calling the question to vote on the, motion on the table, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries. So with that, we will, it has been moved and supported to approve the district K-12 student handbook and Linden athletic handbooks for 2025-26 as presented.
Do we have a roll call vote, please, then? Yes.
Sure. We'd like to do a roll call vote on this. So I'll just go down the way. Oh, you wanna do the roll call vote, Mrs. Callen? Okay, go ahead. You've got the roll call.
Haney,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Montague,
Yes.
Murphy,
No.
Odell,
Yes.
Randberg,
Yes.
Luck.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so that's 6 yeses, 1 no, that motion carries. All right, next action item this evening is our bond purchase for furniture at Central Elementary, Hyatt Elementary, and Hyatt Early Childhood Center. We've been presented with, quite a lengthy amount of information and documentation. I think it was like 50-some pages, thank you, Ms. Reddas, of all kinds of details on this, which is super helpful as we're, trying to make these big decisions. So, it is the administrative recommendation to approve the purchase of furniture, for Central, Hyatt, and, the Early Childhood Center as presented. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded, so with that, we can have some discussion. I don't know, Mr. Reddas, did you have something you wanted to add, or
I don't have.
field questions?
Hope to give you everything you need so you can review it in advance, and if you have any questions specific to what I gave you, I can certainly answer them.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it, like, you always provide above and beyond, and that's appreciated. Does anyone have specific questions on this? I think one of the most notable things that came over for me when I was talking with Mr. Sosalski is the fact that, by making these purchases now, we potentially could be saving a lot of money, not knowing what the cost might be down the road.
Yeah, that's certainly a concern. I actually had, the president of one of the manufacturers stop in my office a couple weeks ago, which kind of spurred us to, kind of expedite the purchase for some of these things. As everybody knows, day to day, the changes, what might be coming, but I think it's in our best interest to make the call on this furniture today and be assured from these manufacturers that there are not gonna be any upcharges, as we get into the summer months and expect delivery of these items, so. We've been assured by all of them that if we do this before the end of this month, that they will guarantee these prices and we won't be looking at any increases.
Very good. Seeing no questions or concerns with this, we'll go ahead and vote it. Has been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the furniture for Central L, and then Hyatt L and the Early Childhood Center as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a couple of discussion items this evening. Well, a couple of discussion items will turn into potentially lots of discussion items, with regard to policy here. But we do have a comprehensive amount of policy updates. And I do want to thank Mr. Sosalski and Ms. Keller in advance for putting these together in a very well thought out format for us to see exactly what the changes are. The policy updates, we've had an opportunity to look through those. Hopefully everybody's looked through and asked questions that they have potentially in advance, but it would be the administrative recommendation. Oh, I guess this is a discussion item, so this will be for next time. So if anybody has questions or concerns on any of these specific policies, but thank you for putting together not only the cheat sheet for us, which we're going to teach one, but then the red and green cross out. It's very helpful, especially when you're looking at this much, so thank you for doing that. Questions or concerns on any of these policy updates? Mr. Murphy?
Just had one when I was thinking about the drugs that are available for students.
Your microphone.
The drugs that the students are able to take during school, like if you got a bee sting or something like that, what's that? Not the EpiPen, but Benadryl. Yes, Benadryl, where does that fall in this mix?
Under the non-prescribed.
That would be it. So that's kind of available through the parameters of the map. Through that.
I think there's an age
Okay.
limits on that as well.
All right. Yeah, that was basically my brain. Couldn't think of that word for the life of me. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
All right, very good. Any other questions or comments at this time? All right, well, seeing nothing else, we will move along to our second discussion item this evening, which is regarding conflict of interest. And again, there's been a board bylaw and policy shared with the board, along with some information from our legal counsel and MASB regarding conflict of interest in board members. Specifically, this is something Mr. Murphy had requested, so thank you for asking and bringing it to us, that we discuss this item with regard to board member conflict of interest. Specifically, I think the discussion piece of this, but since this is Mr. Murphy's request, I'll let him share what he's
Thank you, Mr.
thinking.
Thank you, Mrs. Locke. Yeah, this arose a couple of years ago. I mean, for 20 plus years, I voted on my daughter's teacher's contract. Discussed it, voted on it, whatever. And then it was kind of brought to my attention that probably shouldn't be voting on that based on conflict of interest rules. So at that point, it was basically terminated, which I don't have a problem with not voting on that contract. But then there's the question of deliberating, and I do feel that as a board member, part of your role is to bring information to the table, and it's just that, it's information. If I say something that the rest of the board agrees with, doesn't agree with, whatever, in the deliberations, they still have their own vote, and I don't have to vote on it because I've got a conflict of interest. So basically, the law is very, mute on whether or not deliberations are appropriate by a person who has a conflict of interest. And the only reason I can't do it right now with deliberate is because it's in our board policy 0144.3 conflict of interest. It clearly states the part about the abstain from participation in both discussion of the matter and the vote thereon. That is, again, what we talked about last week in our meeting with the MASB legal person. People think that everything that's in this Neola policy that we get from Neola is all fact, it's all law, and that's just the way it's got to be. The bottom line is, it's not. There's stuff there that's state law, and part of it, and then part of it's its opinion of the Neola or governing, whatever, the people that help put together these updates for us on these policies, rather than us creating our own. So I did ask at the meeting last time if Mr. Manasseh has anything to do with the Neola group, that they would ask that, I would like to see all these policies where whatever is factual due to state law would be coded one way, and everything else that's basically opinion of Neola would be shown in a different color or whatever. I think that would be very helpful, because as a board member, we always wonder, like, is there anything we can do about this policy? And we always kind of get the impression, no, we can't do anything about it because that's Neola's. Well, that's not true. There are things that we've gone through on a couple of very rare occasions in the past. We have challenged it, and we've gone a different way from the Neola way. So the bottom line was, this is another example of that. Our policy says I can't, or any board member can't deliberate in the discussion part. They can sit there, but they can't deliberate. So I looked through these other things that Mr. Soselski sent to us with the kind of like the background about why this has gone to that point in the policy. And basically, the best I can find of all of it was none of it's really, again, none of it's factual. It's just an opinion. So in fact, I looked for our legal from Collins of Blaha, their opinion on this particular point, and they said that their criteria said abstention from deliberations. While disclosure and abstention from voting are required of board members with a conflict of interest, the above statutes are silent regarding a board member's obligation to abstain from deliberation over a conflict of interest. So they say, go on further to say, however, guidance from the MESB suggests that board members should excuse themselves from deliberations and decision-making any time a board member has doubts about his or her own impartiality. Okay? That's the trick here. We need to take that part and put it into our policy and say that, yes, a board member should abstain from deliberation if they have a question about their impartiality. If they don't think they have a problem with their impartiality, then under this rule here, the way the legal people have described it, it's legal for that person, that board member, to have discussion, be part of the discussion. So I think what we need to do is go back to our policy on, based on that legal opinion from Council Block, that we go back to our policy and, where it reads the part about, let's see, I bring it up here again. Okay, so when it reads that, when a member of the board determines that the possibility of a personal interest conflict exists, he should, prior to the matter being considered, disclose the matter, which I've done in the past, or interest, and record it in the minutes, and thereafter shall abstain from participation in both the discussion of the matter and the vote thereon. And I think that needs to be changed to abstain from discussion of the matter if they feel they cannot be impartial in the vote. So it would allow for us to have a board member who feels like they can be impartial, that they would allow them to discuss the matter. And that policy, if we changed it in that fashion, that we could then allow anybody who has a conflict of interest on the board to, again, share information. And I think it's important because we're 6 or 7 people, and we need all 7 inputs on a matter just to make sure that we don't miss something from time to time. So I don't see it as being a negative because, again, the board members are, every board member is a solid board member. They're going to make decisions based on their own beliefs of what they've heard and what they know, and they're not going to be swayed by any board member that whatever says whatever. It's going to be their responsibility to look at the facts of the matter and vote accordingly. And again, the conflict of interest person would not be allowed to vote still under this change. But so I guess that's where I want to go with it. I think what I want to do is we don't have any immediate problem for me or any other board member that I know of. For today's meeting, our executive session, which will not involve a conflict of interest that I know of anybody on the board. So, but at the next meeting, I would like to see us revisit this policy with a change and allow the board members to consider what I've said and what the source of what I've said, and then hopefully make a change accordingly. Because it's not just for me, it's for every future board member that could come along. It's just reflective of what the law really says and what our legal opinion really says. And it's just not been conveyed that way in the past. So.
Mr.
That's
Murphy,
me.
thank you.
Come along with it.
Couple things, just with regard to, like, I guess the discussion pieces that come to my mind. One thing that you mentioned with regard to the policy verbiage changing to if someone feels like they can't be impartial. Like, I'm very uncomfortable with that kind of language because I can't count on someone's feelings or ethical compass.
That's what the
when it comes
legal
to
opinion
things.
says, that's not my drawing.
No, you had said that you wanted to change it to if someone feels like they can't.
Based on what the legal opinion from Council Law is on this law. That's what their opinion is. That's when it gets triggered. The abstention is when the person feels they cannot be impartial. That's the way it should read. What we've got here is a policy that's not fair to the law.
Okay. Well, there's just a lot of things you can get into with regard to how someone feels that they can participate. You know, I might feel one way one day, and then we have a different topic next week, and I feel differently about it. So, and something I thought was interesting when I'm looking at both the bylaw and the policy here. I mean, you're the only person at the board table that was on the board when both of these were updated last. So that's something else we need to consider, is these things get changed. And, you know, we might do something now because we feel like Mr. Murphy can be impartial, and I'm not saying you can't be at all, I think you can be, but in 5 years from now, maybe Mr. Jones can't be impartial, and now our policies is allowing that person to have influence over other board members. So I think we have to consider that this isn't just about one board member, it's about all of us now and all of us in the future until this policy would be reviewed again potentially. So that's just a couple thoughts I have on it. Another quick thing I just wanted to go back on quickly, since you brought up Mr. Vanasek and the Neola legal portion of the policies. He also was very explicit in explaining to us, as we know, that if our policies are swayed from the legal opinions of these folks writing these policies, then Linden Schools is not protected like, federal and state law supersedes whatever our policy says when it comes to law. So we can write whatever we want because we might disagree with it or feel differently. But when it comes down to it, if we ever had a case that came to that policy, we would put the district in a real pickle of being underprotected or not protected at all based on the fact that we didn't follow the guidance of the law. So that's just something that's really important to me as we look at these as well. I don't know if others have comments regarding this discussion point, Mr. Montague?
Sure, thanks, Ms. Luck. So I talked about this last time this came up, and my opinion has not changed on it, or my stance hasn't. And for me, this comes down to holding ourselves to a higher standard as Linden Community Schools. So I don't disagree with Mr. Murphy that the law is pretty clear that you do not have to discard the ability to discuss. I agree with Ms. Luck that I think trying to consider the language that says you can consider if someone can be impartial, it just is too subjective for me. For me, it either has to be, allowing the discussion has to be out or in. I think that part about if the person can be, not, what's the word? Impartial, thank you. Yeah, I don't think that should be in there. And so part of this, thank you. Part of this for me comes from how my team and I have come to handle this in the private sector. And that is, I've got a couple situations at work where I've got actually really good friends that either work on my extended team or that own business partners that we work with, and I've kind of raised it up the legal and the HR channels, and they all tell me, nope, it's only family members where that comes into play, where you have to abstain from a decision, whether that's awarding a contract or awarding a performance review or anything like that. But I choose to abstain from all of those decisions. And as a result of that, my team has also done the same thing. So whenever any of these things come up, everyone puts everything on the table. Hey, I go to church with this person, and yeah, I've been friends with that person for 15 years, and then we all kind of keep each other in check. So if that's how I've come to handle that in the private sector, I think in the public sector here, I don't know why we want to do anything that would, not be in the interest of Linden Community Schools as far as holding ourselves to a higher standard than what the law says, because a lot of things that we talk about, I think we're working to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and that includes any potential visibility of a conflict of interest or being impartial. So that's where I stand on it. I don't think I'm going to be able to waver on this one. I think it's appropriate for the discussion to be excluded from someone that has a family member. And quite frankly, this could impact me in the future, and I'd be fine with abstaining from discussion and voting. So that's where I'm at with it.
Something else I think just to kind of keep in mind here, Mr. Murphy, is there's always opportunity, as an individual board member, to share your thoughts on things with, the president of the board, the vice president of the board, the superintendent, in advance. Like it still provides opportunity to understand how every board member feels, even if it's not during the discussion, at the board table. So
just a quick go back. I did do that last time, prior to that meeting. I had a couple of concerns. I expressed to Mr. Stelsky about what this, he did kind of, I think, maybe adjust his presentation to take those into consideration. But there was actually a couple more that popped up during it that I felt like I wish,
like during the
consider
discussion,
this.
yeah.
I didn't know it was gonna go there. I didn't know that, we don't see the information before we have an executive session. So we don't know, like, oh, he didn't cover that. I thought he would have covered that. So
Well, and
I would have thought that you should probably consider that.
Again, I'm with Mr. Montague on this. Like, I obviously feel differently than you. Having said that, I completely understand your point on this. This is not about you. Like, I appreciate what you bring to the discussions on these things, but this is more about the whole board and all conflicts of interest and future conflicts of interest and things like that. So that's, from my perspective, kind of like Mr. Montague said, that in my mind, we have to kind of toe the line on this, because we can't determine moving forward how someone might behave or when a conflict of interest might arise that affects one of us as well, so.
But my only concern is this isn't me thinking this idea up, well, I can be impartial. No, this is from our legal attorney spelling this out. Okay, I'm not asking for something to be created that's not already created.
Yeah.
So that's where my point is, and that's why I feel it's legitimate, and that's why I feel it's something we shouldn't be afraid of. Like, oh, we're going against the law. No, we've got some legal standing here to tell us that this is appropriate.
Yeah, and I think the one you're referring to is guidance from MASB. It's not from our legal.
This is from Collins Law and stuff.
That's a Collins and Bylaw.
It's their document, but however, guidance from the MAS, Michigan
Right,
Association.
their interpretation of the guidance,
Took their guidance.
right, which basically says it's okay.
Well, they said it's guidance, not law.
So at this point, just to kind of for keeping order for the meeting, again, I appreciate you bringing this to us, Steve. It, of course, as you are always welcome to, as a board member, you can make a motion at any point in time regarding anything. But at this point, unless there's further discussion or a motion, I would like to kind of just table this for now.
No, we don't need to table it, because basically, I'm gonna ask that this be put on the board 2 weeks from now, when our next meeting is. Allow all the board members to search out what I've explained here, and then vote accordingly. I don't want them to make rash decisions.
Okay.
So, I'm good.
Ms. Reinhardt, do you have something?
Yeah, sorry, I'm new, so, I was wondering, I was gonna say, can we table it to see if we could get more, information? Cause I do kind of, I'm reading this, and I do see what Collins and Bylaw says, but it's from 2016. I also don't always, agree with the interpretation that MSAB gives us on things. So I think that this is a good subject to kind of dive deeper in, and tabling it would be awesome, so we get the correct information from the right sources. And I do see where, Mr. Murphy, and I think it affects multiple board members, is coming from with the discussion, not the voting. I was just thinking, like, I'm friends with a lot of staff here and educators, and I will always be impartial, but I understand the discussion part, I just the voting, so I see everyone's point, I agree with you a lot, and I do agree with him as well. So I just wanna see if Mr. Murphy wouldn't mind, can we table this? And
No, we're not tabling it because there's no motion on the floor, so you don't table something. This discussion. So yeah, you don't need to table it.
How long would it take
Don't
to
use that
get
word.
this? Sorry, how long would it take to get the correct information? Like, updated? Cause this is from 2016, from Collins and Bylaw.
Yeah, this is the same information I sent out the last time we had this discussion. So, and again,
They've never, followed up with, like,
I've
in
never
the last
asked
9 years?
I've never asked for it.
That would make me feel more comfortable, cause this is 9 years old.
Yeah.
All right, well, since it's, I'd like to make a motion, actually. I'd like to make a motion that the Linden Community Schools Bylaw 0144.3 conflict of interest and Linden Community Schools Policy 6420 conflict of interest remain unchanged. That's my motion. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that is 4-3. Do we want a roll call vote on that?
I just want an opportunity to think more.
Well, you can make a motion at the next meeting to change it.
I've already asked that be put on the agenda for next week, right here, formally. I've asked that this question be put on the agenda for next week. I don't know why you wanna change a policy that nobody's changed. It's
I'm not changing it.
That vote
I said
was
I'm gonna stay
ridiculous.
the same.
That vote had no point.
Okay,
I'm just, wow.
all right. Apparently three other board members thought it had a point because they voted as well, but anyhow, all right, we need to move forward. All right, this evening, the next item is we need to appoint a hearing officer, for closed session meetings, so, we need a motion and support to appoint Russ Sosowski as the hearing officer for our closed session meeting this evening regarding, section 8B student discipline of the open meeting act. Do I have a motion?
So,
Been moved and seconded to appoint Russ Sosowski as the hearing officer for tonight's closed session meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So with that, at 7:39, we're gonna go into closed session. Anybody who's here can come back in once we go into open session. Students, you should have us sign your papers and go home.